They all became rich after sleeping with her. But one by one, they vanished. No one saw her enter the village. No one knew her name. Only the red lantern she carried, and the strange things she took from each man. Some lost their memories. Some lost their shadows. But one man, the eighth, entered her room, and saw all 7 men sitting silently in chairs, still alive but unable to move. What she whispered next changed the village forever.
That morning in Ajay Odo felt like any other. The sky stretched lazily above the red earth. Roosters screamed into the dawn like they were racing to be heard first, and the village air buzzed with the smell of burning firewood and freshly pounded yam. Children chased goats through narrow footpaths, laughing barefoot, while women tied wrappers over faded house clothes and stirred steaming pots of ogi. The town was alive in its usual, undisturbed rhythm, until the wind changed. Not everyone noticed it at first, but some elders would later say it came with the sound of unseen footsteps. Birds flew off without warning. Dogs whimpered and refused to bark. The leaves on the mango trees behind the Balogun's compound refused to sway even though the sky whispered like Harmattan was near. Then she came. From the narrow path that led from the abandoned stream at the edge of Ajay Odo, she walked slowly, barefoot, like the earth owed her something. She was tall, too tall for comfort. Her skin was light and smooth, untouched by sun or soil. Not even a speck of dust stained her feet, though she walked on the same red sand as everyone else. A black bob flowed behind her like shadows trying to catch up. Her long hair, plaited in strange patterns, reached the small of her back. But it was her eyes that made people turn away. They were deep, ancient, like they had seen every secret the world tried to hide. She greeted no one. She smiled at nothing. She simply walked through Ajay Odo like someone retracing forgotten footsteps. She headed straight for the abandoned Adeboyega compound, a place even the boldest boys dared not enter. It had been swallowed by weeds, thick vines, and old termite hills. Snakes were rumored to live there. Some said spirits danced there by moonlight. Yet, she opened the rusty gate, stepped inside, and claimed it. And just like that, the atmosphere around the compound changed. Within 3 days, flowers bloomed by the gate, strange flowers no one had planted before. Sweet smells began to drift from her backyard, the scent of herbs and strange incense. Colorful birds gathered on the rooftop every morning, singing in unison like they were praising her. Some villagers said they heard drums at night, soft, seductive rhythms with no visible drummers. Children stopped playing near the path that led to her house. Mothers warned them not to even look that way. But the men could not resist. First was Kola, Iya Shalewa's son, the sachet water hawker with one faded shirt and no direction. Everyone had given up on him. But one night, he was seen near her gate holding a basket of yams. By morning, Kola was dressed in white lace, dark glasses, and glittering wristwatches. Within a week, he bought a motorbike. Within 2 weeks, he built a block bungalow and opened a cold room. His transformation was so shocking that the Alagba called him to ask if he had joined politics. Kola only smiled and said, "God works in mysterious ways." Next was Akin, the bricklayer whose palms were always coated in cement. Akin had once promised to marry Folake but had no money to even buy rubber slippers for her. After visiting the woman, he appeared at the village square wearing gold chains, throwing 500 naira notes at children. He now drove a Camry with tinted windows and played loud hip-hop music. Folake's heart broke in silence. Then came Baba Tope, who'd been struggling to pay bride price for a decade. One day he entered the strange woman's compound at dusk. By sunrise, he was married to a city woman with long lashes and acrylic nails. The woman never smiled and only spoke English. People began calling her Madame Abuja. It didn't stop there. Ishola the drummer, whose talking drum business had dried up, visited her. Soon Kunmi, the barber whose clippers always sparked when plugged in, visited her. Lukman the vulcanizer, whose only child had stopped school because of unpaid fees, visited her. One by one, they went. And one by one, they became rich. Some of them wore agbada where they used to wear rags. Others opened shops in Oshobo and even opened bank accounts for their parents. They gave testimony in church without mentioning her name. But everyone knew it was her, the woman in black, Abeni Aje. That's what they now called her. Abeni, the bringer of wealth. She never spoke. She never smiled. But every evening, a single kerosene lantern flickered from her window, glowing like a beacon. And every night, men went there. Not just young men, married men, respected elders. Even the village secretary, a man known for quoting Bible verses, was seen leaving her compound at midnight with his cap tilted awkwardly. Their wives suffered in silence. At first, the women tried to believe their husbands' lies. It's just coincidence. She probably gave them herbal soap. Maybe they just helped her with firewood. But soon the excuses fell apart. Iyasimbi's husband, who used to praise her cooking, told her to stop wasting firewood. I know they eat your food again, he said. Should they give me something better? Mama Durojaye found a necklace under her husband's pillow. A necklace with a small black stone that burned her fingers when she touched it. Iyafiin followed her husband one night and watched him kneel before the strange woman like a servant. The women could no longer bear it. They called a crisis meeting under the Iroko tree by the village square. Their voices shook the air. She is stealing our husbands. She's using charm. This is not ordinary again. We must stop her. But Mama Alake, the oldest woman in Aje Odo, raised her white hand for silence. Her eyes had seen too much. Her voice was calm but cold. We don't know who she is, she said. But our men went to her willingly. If we fight her blindly, we may awaken a curse we can't bury. The women grumbled but agreed. No confrontation, yet. They would consult Baba Ifagemi, the town's oldest Ifa priest. But that night, 5 more men went to her. One of them was Shegun, the shoemaker. He used to fix slippers near the mosque. The next morning, he wore designer jeans and told people he was relocating to South Africa. Nobody asked how. Even the Baal's son, a man with 7 girlfriends and no job, begged at her gate. He came out at dawn spraying 1,000 naira's notes and promising to open a lounge in Ibadan. The town was stunned, but nobody dared speak against her. The children noticed the tension in their homes. The women cried when no one was watching. And the men kept going. Her lantern kept glowing, and every evening, her compound looked like a palace. But the real question remained, what does she gain? No one knew, and no one dared ask. Until the first disappearance. Kola, the sachet water seller turned property owner, gone. One morning, his gate was open. His Camry was parked outside. Phone and wallet were untouched. But Kola had vanished. They searched the stream, the shrine, even Baba Ifagbemi's grove. Nothing. 2 days later, Akin, the bricklayer, vanished too. His wife said he stepped outside after a strange call and never returned. Then the whispers changed. They became fear. She's taken them. They are paying the price. Abeni Aje is not just a woman. But despite the fear, men still lined up. Some said the disappeared men disobeyed her rules. Others said maybe they broke her heart. Yet others whispered, before she leaves, she will take more. And that night, the sky over Aje Odo turned grey. The birds stopped singing. The air smelled like hot metal. And the woman's lantern burned brighter than ever. The very next morning, the Baal himself summoned Baba Ifagbemi. A skinny man with one working eye and the gait of someone who had walked between worlds. Baba Ifagbemi arrived carrying his divination pouch and a calabash wrapped in black cloth. He didn't greet anyone. He simply walked straight to the Adeboyega compound and stood across from it, under the almond tree that refused to bear fruit. He spat on the earth. He waited. For 2 hours, the wind didn't blow. No bird flew overhead. Then he turned and left, saying only one word, Oro. Meaning, forbidden. That evening, the lantern still glowed. And that night, 2 more men disappeared. One of them was the new teacher posted to the village school. Young, fresh from the university, he had sworn never to be involved in village nonsense. But one look at Abeni, and something inside him melted. He had only gone to greet her, he claimed. They found his shoes at the entrance of her gate, but not his body. And now, fear no longer hid in whispers. It wore a name. It marched through the village like a plague. Abeni Ajay. Some said she was not a woman at all, but an Ajay, a witch in flesh, one of those who walk the earth during the day and dance beneath the ground by night. Others said she had come to avenge a forgotten cause, a betrayal buried under generations of silence. But nobody could prove anything, because the men kept going, more desperately than before, as if she had started calling them, as if some unseen thread pulled them from their beds, their families, their sanity. Even Pastor Folarin, he who preached every Sunday with spit flying from his mouth, was seen leaving her compound at dawn, shirt inside out, Bible missing. The village women were no longer just heartbroken. They were terrified. The lantern was no longer just a glow. It was a signal, a summoning. It was on the 7th disappearance that the madness began. Lukman the vulcanizer, who had recently returned from a trip to Lagos, boasting of land and shops and a second wife, came back from her house one night naked, walking backwards through the village square, muttering numbers in a language no one knew. When they tried to stop him, he bit through his own tongue and fell dead. The next morning, his eyes were open, but there were no pupils. Just black, endless black. The village buried him face down, as was done with the damned. That night, Mama Alake gathered the women again under the Iroko tree. Her hands trembled as she held a wooden bowl carved with ancient symbols. She's not just here to tempt, Mama Alake said. She's here to feed. Silence. On what? One woman whispered. On ambition, she said. On desire. On the secret things men don't speak of even to themselves. She gives them wealth. Yes. But not for free. A silence settled. Then someone said, "What can we do?" Mama Alake looked into the fire and replied, "There is a reason she came through the stream path. There is a reason her feet leave no dust. There is a reason she smiles at no one." They decided it was time to send someone into her house. Not a man, not a priest, but a girl. Her name was Morenike, 16, quiet, eyes like her grandmother's, daughter of Iyafiin. She had once stared at Abeni Ajay from a distance and hadn't flinched. That was all the women needed. They washed her in bitter herbs. They tied a white thread around her left wrist. They gave her a folded paper soaked in camphor and whispered names of rivers into her ear. Then, on the next moonless night, they sent her to Abeni's gate with a basket of palm oil and granite as offering. She knocked. The gate opened and swallowed her whole. 3 days passed. No one saw her. The lantern flickered every night like nothing had changed. Then, on the 4th day, the gate creaked open, and Morenike stepped out. But she was no longer the same. She did not speak. Her eyes did not blink. She walked to the square, dropped the empty basket, and placed a folded cloth on Mama Alake's lap. Then she collapsed. When the cloth was unwrapped, it revealed something no one could understand. A red feather. A broken cowrie. A lock of man's hair, still wet with something dark. And written in charcoal on the inside of the cloth, 7 riches for 7 lives. The earths must return willingly, or the earth will split. That night, the men gathered in secret. They were no longer confident, no longer smiling. One of them had started coughing blood. Another had lost all his teeth overnight. The wealth they gained now felt heavy, like carrying a debt too big to repay. But they dared not speak against her, because she still waited, because they had already made their trade, because the earthsman had not yet come forward. And somewhere, Deep in the shadows of the Adegboyega compound, the lantern burned hotter. Almost like it was waiting for someone specific. Someone not yet chosen. Someone who would not survive the gift. The village was no longer at peace. People no longer gathered under the mango tree in the evenings to laugh and talk. The moon still rose, but laughter had died. Too many young men had vanished. And the woman with the red lantern still walked barefoot across their nightmares. The village priest had tried prayers. The herbalist from the next town had tried sacrifices. The last surviving elder even called the state radio to request deliverance. But still, every few weeks, another man disappeared. One morning, a new kind of visitor came. Not a stranger, but a son returning. His name was Olaolu, a 26-year-old graduate of engineering who had just completed his NYSC in the city. His father was the late Chief Olu, and his mother still ran a small food shed near the market square. Olaolu was brilliant, smart, confident, but most dangerously, he was logical. When he heard that the village was being haunted by a mysterious woman who stole from men and made them disappear, he laughed. You people are still stuck in 1914. What did she steal? Their CV? Their destiny? Or their SIM card? His mother warned him not to speak recklessly. Laulu, don't let your tongue bury your feet. But Olaolu was not a believer in folklore. He said if a woman was responsible, then it was either ritual or blackmail, nothing more. That evening, under a deep orange sky, he walked to her compound. The path was quiet, almost too quiet, like nature itself didn't want to go near her home. But Olaolu wasn't scared. He had seen worse in Lagos: cultists, stray bullets, SARS officers. What was a barefoot woman with a red lantern? He reached the hut and knocked, gently. There was no response. He pushed open the curtain door, and what he saw stopped him mid-step. The room was not made of walls. It was made of wind. Inside, 7 chairs formed a cycle, empty but vibrating. In the middle was a mirror, but it showed no reflection. The woman stood beside it, eyes closed. Her lantern now dim, flickering like a dying candle. She opened her eyes, slowly. Olaolu, she said, without being told his name. He paused. You know me? She smiled. I knew your father. I tested his ambition once. He stepped back, his throat dry. You slept with my father? She did not reply, but her smile said enough. He vanished, like the rest. No, she replied. He bargained, and paid his debt with someone else's future. Olaolu's heart pounded. Whose future? She looked at him gently. Yours. Suddenly, it made sense. His life had always felt borrowed. Even though he was smart, job offers always slipped past him. His relationships failed without cause. He was brilliant, but it always felt like he was trying to swim with weights around his neck. Was he paying for someone else's wealth? Why me? Why now? He asked. She turned to the mirror. Because the date was deferred, but never cancelled, and tonight is the due date. Olaolu turned to run, but there was no door anymore. Only the 7 chairs, now filled. He looked again, and gasped. Each chair had a man he'd known as a boy: Uncle Sheyi the barber, Tunji, the mechanic, Hassan, who once sold recharge cards. Men who got rich overnight. Men who vanished soon after. They sat, eyes closed, breathing, but frozen in memory. They are not dead, she said, but they are not living. She touched the mirror again, and Olaolu heard his father's voice. Son, if you're hearing this, I'm sorry. I gave her something that wasn't mine. I was desperate. I wanted to be chief. And you were just a boy. His voice cracked. But you were always meant to face her. You are the earth's. Olaolu screamed. This is madness. But the room responded with silence. What do you want from me? He shouted. She stepped forward. Not your life. Not your body. Just a trade. Trade what? She looked deep into his soul. You will choose. Your mind. Your love. Or your shadow. Olaolu staggered. What does that mean? She raised one hand. 3 doors appeared. One glowed with blue fire, his mind. One with roses and broken chains, his love. One was simply black, his shadow. Choose one, and lose it forever. Then the date will be cleared. The others will be freed. Olaolu cried out. Why me? Why must I suffer for a father's mistake? She whispered. Because everything stolen must return. One way or another. He knelt, his chest heavy, his breath shallow. He remembered his mother, her sacrifices, her prayers. He remembered how every man who took shortcuts ended up in chairs of regret. And then, he stood. Take my shadow. The woman blinked. Are you sure? He nodded. I want to be whole, even if it means people forget me. Even if I walk alone. Let my mind be sharp. Let my heart love purely. Let me carry the cost. She smiled for the first time. Then she walked up to him and placed her hand on his chest. There was a flash of light, a scream, and darkness. The villagers woke to find Abeni's hut gone. In its place was a tree, red-leaved, with 7 calabashes hanging from its branches. By the foot of the tree sat Olaolu, eyes open, body still. He had no shadow, but his eyes were clear, his smile peaceful, and one by one, the missing men returned to the village. Confused, silent, but alive. Nobody knew what truly happened. But from that day, no man in that village ever chased wealth the same way again. Greed always creates debt, and someone always pays it. Shortcuts may grant you riches, but they often steal something your children will have to repay. Value what you earn. Fear what comes too easy. Because some blessings carry curses that wait patiently in the dark. What would you do if your own brother vanished after chasing fast money? Would you dare enter Abeni's room? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget, subscribe to Samobaba Tales for more real African stories that hit deep. Every tale has a truth, but not every truth survives the tale. Like, comment, share, subscribe.